السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الجلسة الرابعة وبها 3 أوراق عمل. أول ورقة عمل التجهيزات الطبية، التخطيط الدولي والتطبيق المحلي، مستر مارك ويلسون. والورقة الثانية إيجاد تصميم بيئة استشفائية من خلال تصميم الإضاءة الطبيعية من خلال خبرات المرضى، بروفيسور سرازالي إربن. والورقة الأخيرة تطور برنامج عمارة المباني الصحية في جامعة تكساس بأمريكا منذ عام 1966. وسيدير الجلسة المهندس خالد إبراهيم الناصر، عضو شعبة معماري المباني الصحية، والحاصل على بكالوريوس العمارة جامعة الملك فيصل، ودبلوم عالي من جامعة بريستول ببريطانيا في تصميم المباني الطبية، ومدير عام شركة دار التصاميم المعمارية. فليتفضل مشكور.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حياكم الله مرة أخرى. والآن الجلسة الثانية نتكلم فيها عن Mr. Mark Wilson will start the first session. Mark Wilson, he's a medical equipment planning manager for KTWW engineer. And he has 30 years of experience in this field. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. It's my great honor to be invited to speak to you this morning. My topic is medical equipment planning. Those of you involved in construction of and occupancy of major hospital construction projects know the importance of this topic because it helps to define the clinical tools requested by the clinicians. It affects the design of the construction project as well as the occupancy, and it can occupy up to 25% of the total construction budget. I wanted to start by illustrating the role of the medical equipment planner in terms of a dynamic and what they bring to the process. This graphic illustrates what we see in medical equipment planning terms are the 4 major constituents of the users of the information. And that would be the clinician who defines the need for the medical equipment as required by the project, the architect, engineering, and design team that is interested in the medical equipment's physical characteristics, as well as its placement within the construction project. They have to build or plan and build the space which houses that equipment. The administration or owners of the project need to fund the medical equipment, so they're always interested in how much it's going to cost. Lastly, within that dynamic, there is the vendor. We live in the real world and we have to buy real items. Those items are defined by the medical equipment manufacturing community. So we see our job as medical equipment planners as the broker of the information associated with the medical equipment required by these projects. And I want to speak for a moment about the dynamic of the vendor because it's a very dynamic process. Utilizing one of our research elements, the medical device register, indicates that there's approximately 17,000 manufacturers worldwide that create over 82,000 separate medical device specifications, and that changes probably to the tune of 5 to 7% on a yearly basis. So for those involved in specifying medical equipment, over a long timeline, you can expect multiple changes, and that's always one of the problems that we deal with. Within the dynamic and trade-off of the information, one way to define the role of a medical equipment planner is to manage the risks involved in the maneuvering all of this information. So as a risk management role, it's our experience tells us that one of the main risks involved in this is to ensure that there's consistency between the plan and the implementation. And I want to focus on that as part of my topic today. Project timelines increase that risk. My understanding is the timeline of a project delivery for a major facility in this area is somewhere between 5 to 6 years. As that timeline extends, that risk elongates based on the changes that the manufacturing community brings, as well as its impact on what was initially planned versus what's going to be delivered. At our company, the way we approach this methodology is frankly, the same one that we've noticed how architects approach their control over a project. Architects like to ensure that what they plan is what's constructed. For medical equipment planners, we're also very interested in making sure that the plan that we've put together is able to be fulfilled through the whole implementation process. We think that the continuity of maintaining the planning with the implementation is one way to help control the risks of equipment change, equipment cost, and equipment impact on the design of the building. So within our role of being the broker of the information, the first demand on the medical equipment planner is to support the design. The medical equipment planner is called on to develop certain lists. Those reflect the functional requirement of what each of the individual clinical groups requires in their spaces. The deliverable that we give to the design team in that support is a list of equipment on each space by space, either in room data sheet format, individual list format, whatever that particular deliverable looks like based on that company. Those lists, accompanied by summaries of the utility characteristics, space characteristics, power characteristics of the major equipment pieces, are a deliverable that you as design professionals should expect from your medical equipment planner. These summaries help make your engineering coordination a more efficient process. You should expect your medical equipment planner to graphically represent the equipment that goes into each of the spaces. Typically, or the new versions should be in 3D Revit. CAD certainly is another way to do it. We would recommend 3D Revit. We find that it helps coordination of elimination of conflicts with the building. During planning, the transitioning to implementation should start relatively early on once plans and budgets have been approved by the owner. And the reason why that is you select specific or generic descriptions of equipment as your basis of design, and you then need to implement that basis of design. So for most projects, implementation follows a timeline like this. You need to procure the items, including all management services associated with that procurement. You need to organize the movement of the goods that procurement then generates. That means that you have to be able to handle the flood of equipment. To give an example, our metrics in US indicate that for every $1 million of medical equipment, you can expect between 500 and 700 pieces with a volume of approximately 4 semi-loads. It doesn't take many dollars to indicate that that becomes a flood of material that has to be individually sorted, received, and program staged so that it ends up in the right place at the right time, and that is the ultimate goal. That means that we've tied, or we're trying to tie, the implementation of the plan so we can succeed and fulfill the goals of the plan, that planning regimen that we had when we started. As the new products are delivered and installed and accepted and tested, the facility then also has to prepare for its activation. The owner has certain specific responsibilities and actions that they have to take to prepare the space for clinical operations. The delivery and installation of the medical equipment has to support that and not interfere with it. So there's a requirement to coordinate that delivery and installation of medical product to make sure that the owner's overall goal of a successful occupancy of the project happens in a seamless fashion. Last, if there is existing facilities that you're occupying, or if you're moving into new or renovated facilities, there's a whole transition and occupancy planning that has to occur. If you've done your medical equipment planning correctly and you are utilizing some of the existing equipment to fulfill the functional need, that means that now you are managing that relocation process as well. In terms of looking at the detail, project implementation starts with the procurement planning. If you have a successful plan that's been accepted and is successfully budgeted and will successfully fit into the building, the owner or whoever is doing the procurement then looks to organize the activities so that they can procure that equipment at best value to themselves. There are many ways to do that. We advocate that the continuity of having the planner be involved in the procurement pays big benefits to the owner, but there are many, many models for how to get that done. Whatever model you use, you typically would identify a preferred manufacturer along with whatever acceptable alternative manufacturers that can fulfill the functional requirement for the equipment that you've started. You also can buy those different manufacturers or specifications from alternative suppliers. That becomes available to you as a strategy. The way we do that is we look at the mass of equipment that's been approved and we create certain packages of common equipment types. That allows our owners to go to the marketplace with as much volume leverage as possible so that they can obtain favorable pricing. Those packages, along with terms and conditions of sale, utilizing the bidding market and those 17,000 manufacturers hopefully competing for your business, should give you favorable pricing for the medical equipment plan that you've developed. Same thing for equipment for reuse. If you've got a vendor disconnect, you need to be able to procure that or at least establish a contract for that purpose, and that rolls up into an overall procurement package. Oftentimes, it would be a same manufacturer you can approach for both new equipment and relocated equipment. Imaging systems are a very good example of that. Lastly, or firstly, actually, you need to have an overall strategy for how you're going to proceed, the schedule of how you're going to proceed, along with what the roles and responsibilities of the various players are. In our practice, we have no relationship with any manufacturer. We work for our owners, and we want to make sure that the owner has control over the process and certainly oversight over all of the activities that occur. After you've organized that strategy and those steps, you want to take a look at the overall implementation. So as you're going through the procurement management, you need to decide on a strategy for how those products that you are going to buy are going to approach your site and eventually get into the building. Timing involved in that is driven in a large part by how the building is going to be delivered by the builder, along with what services either the builder has to provide or the owner has to provide to prepare the space. The classic example is we don't want to deliver products into a room when that room has to be prepared for clinical service, so that, say, the cleaning crews have to come through and drag all the equipment out that we've just delivered to wax the floors and then put it back. The dependency of actions creates a proper sequence, and those that are delivering and installing product need to be up to speed with not only how the building is being delivered, but also what those post-delivery services are going to be and who's going to provide them. One way to provide oversight that we have adopted is to utilize a internet bidding platform. We've seen good success with this by watching some of our contract partners handle the procurement of materials for building the building, and we've adapted some of those same platforms for procuring medical equipment. We are currently procuring a project for the island of Bermuda, utilizing an internet transfer. That allows us to pre-qualify manufacturers, send out tenders utilizing the internet platform with email notification. All bids that come back are uploaded into this internet site with oversight by the owner for all transactions. We feel that that's a good audit process to ensure that the owner has independent look at what all the marketplace requirements are going to be. This accumulates the information, allows us to package it and make recommendations that we think are in the owner's best interest. So for project implementation, once things are bought, and you've got a strategy for how you are going to handle the influx of product, one of the key issues is, are you going to try to time the delivery marketplace, or are you going to try to control the amount of product coming to your job site through use of a third party, a consolidator, if you will? There are some companies here that I am aware of that have approached us already to serve in that format. A few of them would be Visalia, Gulf Medical, Salahia also have indicated that they provide those kinds of services. We utilize services of moving and storage companies in the U.S. to do this sort of thing. The decision to do this needs to come fairly early on, because when you buy from a manufacturer, one of the first things they're going to want to know is, where do I ship it to? So your strategy needs to be fairly settled before you start writing those first purchase orders. If you decide to use a third party, one way to acquire them is on a bidding scenario. That is, you describe a scope of work that would support the overall scope that you want them to provide to support the project, including the receiving, the documentation of that receipt and proof documents, any freight forwarding or freight damage claims, the storage, the repackaging and staging, and then the redelivery to the job site in bundles that mirror the turnover of spaces that the contractor has scheduled. Once those products in mass are on site, they need to be distributed, sub-assembled, and installed into the individual rooms. That gives you a complete installation. Those services typically are available in U.S., and I would recommend that you at least explore those opportunities when you try to deliver projects here. This graphic illustrates what a consolidated third party would be able to provide to you. Multiple manufacturers, suppliers will be delivering, and this gives you the opportunity to consolidate that product and repackage into deliverable sections that would come online as the project comes online. Also to provide the various services illustrated in the green box here, such as receiving documentation, freight claims, security, environmental controls, etc. It gives you the opportunity to create an organized product flow onto the job site so that site installers can do their jobs effectively. That means implementing projects locally. Either consolidating warehouses or existing equipment are local conditions. It's very, very tough to provide that from out of town. When we provide projects in U.S., we always look for local partners. We think that this model works very well for us and makes it a very efficient process. It gives us the opportunity to control the products as they go through and allow you to perform those other elements that a good installation will reflect, such as safety testing, biomedical acceptance testing, asset tagging so that the value of the item can be recorded into the financial books. It allows you to collect the various in-service and operator manuals and service manuals. It allows you to control and make sure that the in-service training is organized properly. All of these items acquired during your procurement process. Lastly, for project implementation is the new facility activation. Part of the owner acceptance is the equipment in the right space at the right time, and does it work correctly? As the buildings come online and you prepare for clinical activities in the new facilities, you want to make sure that those tools are available and ready to work. So the medical equipment delivery and installation, along with its other associated services, are important and should be very supportive of what that new facility activation would be. That's the end of my formal presentation. I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mark. Now the next speaker is Dr. Arzal Arbin. He's creating a healthcare environment through daylight design and patient experience. Please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First and foremost, I would like to express my appreciations to the organizations of Saudi Healthcare Architects, as well as the Saudi Umrah Society for inviting me, for giving me this opportunity to share my research findings on patient experience, creating a healing environment through daylighting design. This is my topic, and it is a field survey of Malaysian public hospitals And my research interest, which I have already established, that in hospital wards, the physical environment strongly influences the healing process, and the probably most important factor is the visual environment, notably the daylighting conditions. These are the three main topics or three main areas that I will cover. The first part, I will highlight the importance to have well-designed physical aspects in creating a healing environment in hospital design. The second part, we'll be looking at some research findings, literature review on daylight, relationship between daylight and health. And third, followed by the case study of Malaysian public hospitals, 7 I've chosen, and key findings hope to share with you. I'm privileged here to speak on behalf of the patients because Malaysian patients don't normally complain. But the situation now is slightly different because in my country, election is getting nearer, so they complain a lot. Okay, before that, I would like to ask the audience in front of me, have you ever been a patient before or and being admitted to the hospital environment? If the answer is yes, then this would be a typical environment in Malaysian hospitals and at waiting area while waiting for the appointment with the doctors. Once admitted, you are being asked to change a new set of dress, which is neither fashionable nor sexy. You are also being given a tag on your in your wrist, and you will be surrounded by so-called angels, you know, and they call doctors, and you have limited numbers of visitors allowed with permitted time. The doctors only come once or twice in a day, and the rest of the day you are left stuck with the indoor physical environment. All these experiences are almost similar to being a prisoner, except you are hospital and you are sick. And this is an analogy. The borrowed image here is a local prison in Ireland. Chapman make a comparison or analogy that hospital as prison. And he extended his view by saying that both have cold, hard floors, lacking in colors and warmth. He described further that both prisoners and patients are typically housed in buildings with such conditions. I personally contend with this argument, and some people do compare hospitals and prisons. In both cases, you can't escape, really. Healing suggests redressing ills and establishing a process that leads towards health. It is my contention today that there is a thing called healing architecture. Sorry, are you okay? Yeah. So in a healing environment of hospital design, the negative experience experienced by patient recorded by Simini in 1999 and Cape in 2004, criticism includes, here they are, depressing, confusing, dull, shabby, windowless, stressful, less natural light, noisy, etc., which have been pointed out by the previous speakers. These are the concerning physical aspect in hospital design. And in Malaysian experience, the list goes on, like warm and uncomfortable, poor maintenance of toilets, and tasteless food. Why is the need to ensure quality patient experience in a healing environment? These are the potential reasons outlined by DASI in 2008 and the NHS Confederation 2010. So there is a need for quality patient experience should be a priority for healthcare organizations. And Malkin in 1991 also claims that in the creation of a healing environment, among physical factors that have to be considered are noise control, air quality, thermal comfort, color, texture, and windows. These factors have a more pronounced influence in hospital than in other buildings as patients are bedridden and have limited freedom of reaction. I highlighted in yellow because that will be my focus of my study. So I established a research framework within the broad review of topic healing architecture. There are two branches of subject, physical and non-physicals, and visual, oral, and thermal are explicitly laid out. A healing environment, in my opinion, that cannot be achieved if these physical aspects are not in place. Daylight is one of the most important elements in visual comfort and shall be the focus in this research. Ladies and gentlemen, hospitals have been compared to a workshop garage. Both are for repair. However, for a hospital environment, repair of the body is the concern. It requires the optimum level of comfort and care physically, socially, and psychologically. For this, the luminous environment plays an important role in the hospital environment in order to achieve a healing environment. There is a very little information about daylighting in hospital, but plenty for offices and schools. So these are the findings by Bergman et al. In 1997, that daylight can improve visual performance and biological stimulation. Figueroa in 2003 indicates in his study that worker productivity level found that daylight may positively affect the work performance in an interior of windowed office environment during winter months. And in schools, children choose to sit near the windows, and the survey indicate the reason for that are view out, view content, nature, space, comfort, both visual and thermal. The main factor is, however, the amount of daylight. Daylight, on the other hand, is that most physicians accept that the fact that appropriate balance of daylight and artificial light may positively affect some illnesses in the ward environment. Cape in 2004 suggests that access to natural light and fresh air are crucial factors affecting patient and their recovery. There are growing numbers of studies on the effect of light for Alzheimer's patients. These scientific observation and quantitative analysis agree that lighting strategies have a positive impact on managing behavioral disturbances of the Alzheimer's type. Physicians generally agree that absence of daylight may cause several health disorders. These are sadness, fatigue, mood disorders, and seasonal affective disorders, SAD. Now, move on to my case study of Malaysian Public Hospital. I have established, because visual comfort is a subjective phenomenon, it is a condition of mind expressing satisfaction with the visual environment. Therefore, target group are very important. There are actually 4 target groups, but in this study, I focus on the patient and hospital staff who are actually the direct end user who are experiencing the daylighting conditions. And the objective of this case study is to investigate the existing daylighting condition in a 4-bed ward environments in public hospital design through an estimate of patient satisfaction with their visual comfort across the ward's environment. So these are the methodology. Both qualitative and quantitative methods were conducted. 4 qualitative personal observation and survey interviews were carried out during 4 to 5 days during the visit. And these are the key factors. Seven hospitals were selected, and 3 referral hospitals and 4 district hospitals. So I have established the sampling criteria for patients as a respondents. This is how it looks like for H1 building, H2 with finger type, and H3 building with courtyard type, and PH building in Pahang, JPH in Negeri Sembilan, these are district hospitals, and JH in Melaka, KKB in Selangor. I have to put coding because that is the code for each of my case studies. So the response rate for patients is 100% because they are very receptive because they are bored, stuck on the bed. So they welcome my survey, you know. Doctors and nurses are the most difficult people to be interviewed. So aspects for investigations, overall environment, overall daylighting, glare, window, and types of views. So I start with the question, are you satisfied with the environment in this ward? The analysis reveals that in most of the hospitals studied, the majority of the patients were satisfied. Generally, they agreed. Only 7% were dissatisfied. And using this using the same data, I cross-tabulated the analysis, and the outcome then broke down based on hospital design in Table 1. With the referral hospitals, 5% and 8% of patients expressed their dissatisfaction. All patients are happy at H3 building, and it's believed that the building configuration of H3 with most wards facing north-south is likely a contributing factor to patient satisfaction. So when asked about how good daylighting in this ward, some patients, 2% located near window, expressed their dissatisfaction with daylighting. None of the patients located away from windows expressed any dissatisfaction with daylighting condition. So it is a bit, it is important for me to find out what's the reason for this phenomenon. As it contradicts the common assumption that patients located near a window are always happy with the immediate access to natural lighting. So when I analyze the building orientation, in H3 building, the building orientation is placed in east-west direction, and the outcome of that, most 4-bed wards are placed in north-south direction. No direct sunlight appears on the floor surface of the ward during day, and disability glare or discomfort glare are avoided. These are opinions. Yeah? Nevertheless, H1 and H2 building are not exactly oriented in east-west direction. As a result, 20 to 30% of 4-bed wards are almost directly facing east-west directions. So direct sunlight at low angles occur on the floor surface of the ward at certain period of the day. Patients and staff do experience unwanted warmth and discomfort glare. So what orientation, ladies and gentlemen, is a crucial factor to be considered in hospital design. I strongly believe that this could be one of the reasons why H2 building had the highest air conditioning load during my survey. So a statement being posed to the patient, daylighting is important in the ward environment. So I have received a mean of 5.9 mean was achieved through a descriptive analysis was carried when analysis was carried out. This indicates that most patients do agree with the statement that daylighting is an important physical factors in the ward environment. So with regard to the bed location, 66% of the patients located away from window agreed that daylighting is an important aspect. 34% of the respondents were undecided. None of them disagreed. So, however, 3% who were located near window disagreed with the statement. The findings suggest that bed location play a significant factors on patients' need for daylighting. As the distance they are from the windows increases, the appreciation of the lighting increases slightly. Yeah. So a list of description were given of the physical environment were given to the respondents, and patients were required to number the box in sequence. And the analysis revealed that the first priority is cleanliness, with a mean of 6.6 out of 10 under the heading of others. This could be a result of patient expectation that a hospital should be a hygienic place. It is noted that daylighting with a mean of 5.3 falls in the top 5 as listed in Table 4 for Malaysian patient. So the criticisms, the results of the experience experienced by the patient, these are the negative experiences by patient in the 4-bed ward environment. This shows that the criticism expressed by patients as shown in Table 5 is similar finding with the Simini and Cape in 2004. So with these adverse critiques of the existing physical aspect, some patients conveyed their grievances to me as they are making the same complaints to the top management of the hospital directors. Now, do you agree, I mean, it is to a certain extent that there is a need for a genuine complaint by the patients that hospitals or the claim made by Chapman that hospitals as prison, this could be true to a certain extent. So in a 4-bed ward environment, when patients are confined to a bed and have limited movement, the avoidance of glare is crucial. Majority of the patients, when I surveyed I asked whether they encounter glare or not, 52% of the respondents firmly answering yes, there is a glare existing. When a cross-tabulation analysis was carried out, those who say yes are 59 near window and 45 away window. When we tabulate among all the hospitals, in fact, all the hospitals are, all patients are in the case studies are experiencing glare. So on the aspects of visual comfort, these are the area when we interview when is the glare happening. In the afternoon and where? Due to direct window, due to direct sunlight and bright sky. So the visual comfort of a 4-bed ward environment in all hospital buildings has been generally satisfied under both sky conditions, clear and overcast. However, it has been explicitly noted that discomfort glare was experienced by patients in all hospitals. Patients had to either use curtains or not facing windows to avoid discomfort glare when lying on the bed near the windows. So I also do some assessment study of glare because we have to measure in H1, near window is 20.7 contrast against 15.5 away window. And in H2 building, 22.9 as compared to 15 in people or patients stay in the away window bed. And in H3, near window is 16.9 contrast glare against 12.8. So H2 building has the highest score with 22.9. In most cases, daylight seems to be sufficient during the day under both condition clear and overcast. However, insufficient lighting conditions has been confirmed by nurses during medical procedure as no artificial lighting or daylight provided at each bed. Discomfort glare is also experienced by patients in a lying position of their beds from artificial light at the ceiling, centralized control of lighting. And the size and type of luminaires are also inconsistent.
2 minutes, please.
2 minutes, yeah. Okay. In most cases, pastel color scheme is commonly applied in all 4-bed wards. Patients seem to be satisfied on this aspect. However, the perimeter walls are painted with dark. This will enhance the glare experience. So all patients are happy with ward with window, and they are also happy with the present windows conditions. So the windows are in most hospitals are tinted, dark tinted, light blue tinted, and in history light tinted. 2 types of window profile and placement are observed, symmetrical and central grouping. It can be deduced that either patient in sitting or lying position on their bed, symmetrical placement is most preferable. This is due to the fact that ratio of 1 window to 2 bed is better compared to 1 to 4. Access to view is also affected in center grouping because of the acute angle. in H2 building, there are clear complaints about because the window is large, heat coming in. So there is a clear conflicting issues between physical and psychological. So on the other aspects of, do you have any view outside from your bed? Yes, the patient agreed that all except 1% in one of the in the patient respondents. So if yes, how satisfactory is the view in your position? Patients are fairly satisfied with the mean of 4.8. Access to view, by observation on access to view in all referral hospital, the average window height from finished floor level is 1 meter. Access to view at level 4 of indicates that in a standing position, 88% of the view is the sky, implying 12% is meaningful view. In a sitting position, 97% of the sky is the sky, implying 3% is meaningful view. When you are in a lying position, all view are sky actually. So bed and window placement do affect access to view. Center grouping placement provides narrow angle from patient's bed position. So these are the type of view experienced in most of the 7 hospitals.
Doctor, I think it's time.
Yep,
Yes.
okay. So these are the views, and these are my conclusions. And these are the findings on the how to arrive to a window placement and positions. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor. Now the last speaker, Mr. Jason Schroer from HKS. He has Master of Architecture in Health Facility Design from Clemson University, and he has a Bachelor of Environmental Design from Texas A&M University. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Is that loud enough? Good. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, of course. We've had a great experience over the last few days. Have learned a lot and had a chance to meet and make some new friends. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Jason Schroer. I'm with HKS Architects. I'm actually located in our Dallas office. As Steve mentioned yesterday, we have offices throughout the world, and we have about 1,000 employees, and I have the opportunity to be the director of what we call our international studio out of Dallas. So I have the support of about 40 architects that I work with on a day-to-day basis on projects in some really beautiful and amazing places, much like this. But my real team support is my family, and that's who really gives me the inspiration to do what I do. And I couldn't do that without them, so I wanted to give them the credit for that. I also want to give credit to George Mann. I'm actually presenting on his behalf today through the UIA in public health. He was a professor of mine at Texas A&M. Many of you may know him based on his public relations effort on trying to spread the importance of what we believe is a specialty in healthcare design. And I share that passion, as do many of my colleagues. So we had a good time last night. We went to the desert. I tried my best to fit in. I think because I'm from Texas, I was able to ride the camel fairly well. We also had a chance to tell some really good stories. One of the stories I wanted to share with you was about a hole in the middle of the street. You may wonder why that's relevant. Well, you know how traffic is. Cars are going and coming and going and coming and going, and one day a car drove right into the hole. The driver was injured. The ambulance had to come. They had to retrieve the driver out, and he was injured pretty bad, so the ambulance had to get the driver out, take him to the hospital. It took such a long time to get to the hospital that he just didn't make it. He just didn't make it. So a group of intelligent gentlemen got together, and much like this audience, and said, how can we fix the problem? What can we do to make that better? So one of the solutions was, maybe we just move the hole closer to the hospital. The next solution was, maybe we move and park the ambulance next to the hole. That may solve the solution. But of course, the hospital was too far away. So the best solution was, well, we're just going to build the hospital next to the hole. And so that's what was the birth of healthcare planning right there. It was a fun story. Another quick story that I'd like to share is, many of us are architects, and I'm an architect. And at least in the West, when I share that with friends, new friends that I may meet on the street or at lunch or at a party, they get really excited. They think, wow, well, you must design buildings that look like this. And, while you may not look like this guy, we kind of perceive you as this cool architect guy. And that's probably the car that you drive, right? Well, we know that that's pretty far from the truth. But when I go on and tell them that I'm an architect that actually specializes in healthcare, their demeanor changes. They look at me kind of funny and say, why would you want to design hospitals? Buildings that may look like this, or drive a car that may look like this. And what I get a chance to do is share with them some of the beautiful buildings that we've all seen, many of our colleagues have designed and built, and the opportunity that we have to really make a difference in healthcare design. We absolutely can make a difference in patient healing, in the way facilities operate and offer care, and that's what inspires me to do what I do. This image happens to be a concept design we did in Panama, in South America. We did a celebration image as this might be what the hospital looked like when it opens on opening day. But I am an architect, and there's many of us in the room. And I do believe that buildings have a profound effect on people. And I think if you listen and watch these presentations over the last few days, there's no doubt that evidence will show that we can make a big difference in the things that we do, in the decisions we make, in the guidance that we give to owners on how we can impact people. And we actually have an opportunity to create places that can contribute to people healing. And that goes across the globe, no matter where you're at. So how do we do it? Well, I think you saw a lot of presentations this week that begin to show some successes, begin to show some tools on ways to do that. I would argue that together we need to explore new ideas. We need to have research. I was very happy to see what was happening at the American University in Cairo. We need to get young architects interested. And if George Mann was up here today, he would definitely want to reiterate that. We need to share our knowledge. That's why I think the beauty of this conference is to do that. And in order for us to be better, to learn from each other, learn from our mistakes, learn from our successes, we can create some beautiful places. We should expand our horizons. I applaud this conference and the variety of presentations from those that have been and live in different areas of the world, because it gives good perspective on the challenges we all face in providing health care. So as I go into a quick scenario and story, a case study, this is really about the dedication that our firm has at HKS. I know HDR also participates frequently in these forums in the U.S., but we have a unique opportunity to partner with local universities to provide professional mentorship to students, to provide opportunities to actually do real projects that we are working on with clients and involve students. And we feel like that's part of what we need to do as a profession. We believe so much in the fact that design can make a difference, in particular in healthcare, that we need to inspire young people to take on those beliefs and move those beliefs forward and then begin, in turn, inspire us. George Mann has done a great job of that at Texas A&M. He's been there since 1966. He started that program in his mid-20s and has influenced hundreds of students. over the years to consider healthcare design as a specialty. He's in College Station, Texas. It's not far from our offices in Dallas. But they've done and undertaken over 500 projects around the world since 1966. And he actually will take a group of students, his studio, they will travel, usually within the States. They will visit an owner. They will work with that owner. The owner will provide them feedback. And along the way, a professional firm like HKS or HDR or RTKL will be along the way to mentor those students as well. It gives them great opportunities to be exposed to a specialty that they may not have considered previously. It gives students an opportunity to sit with users, an opportunity that you wouldn't typically get behind the walls of a design studio at school, to really push solutions that can solve real problems. I also have the great opportunity to be working with 3 alums from Texas A&M who happen to be at HKS. Of course, with their support and the tie to Texas A&M, we've been able to successfully continue our relationship in a teaching firm status. Craig Bill, Ron Skaggs, Joe Sprague, they were actually students of George Mann, believe it or not. He doesn't like to admit that. A little bit about HKS. We've been doing healthcare over the last 5 decades. Ron Skaggs, a student of George Mann, started our program, and it spans on to today. We have a global presence. We try to provide local experience with that presence. And in Abu Dhabi, we have an office there. And one of my mentors, the director of healthcare, Dr. Emmanuel Miko, has unique experience because he was at the University of Baghdad and was the dean there from 1979 to 1988. He's a teacher at heart. Many of you have probably met him. I'm sure he would be happy to speak with you today or beyond today, to have an opportunity to meet maybe with local students in the local university to inspire them to consider healthcare design as a specialization. HKS is one leader in healthcare. We design a lot of healthcare projects. We believe in evidence-based design. We have our own research that we do along the side of many of our own projects. We'll research other projects as well. We like to build to the collective knowledge within the firm, but also we like to share that knowledge for the collective knowledge of the whole. There's a return on investment in a lot of ways. You saw some studies earlier and yesterday about return on investment on cost, return on investment of life cycle. The return on investment that I'm speaking about today is about inspiring young people to consider healthcare architecture as a profession. A case study of collaboration that I wanted to share with you today was we had a chance to actually span the globe on a project and to involve professional firms both in China, HKS, and Oklahoma. 3 different universities with 3 different sets of students. We were able to bring them together, give them a real-life project as their studio semester, and you can see the span of distance between the students and the firms. But we were going to make it happen because we knew that it was important for us to give these students an opportunity to experience not only visiting professional architects, learning from professional architects, but getting an opportunity to present to owners and get real-life experience as part of their experience at the university. This is Craig Bill. He's lecturing in Shanghai. He's a director of our healthcare program. This is the group of students from Oklahoma and Texas A&M that participated in the project. This is the group of students with George Mann in Shanghai that participated in the project as well. And you can see young, old, in the middle, like me, all working together in order to try to figure out unique solutions to how we can better our experience within healthcare and hospitals. The energy that you get in these presentations, in these rooms of students, interacting with owners, interacting with professors, interacting with professions, is really amazing. These are some visits that we took. This is the HKS office in Shanghai with students and both staff. And collaborating over video as well. We tried to take advantage of technology to figure out how we can work together across oceans. It was very unique, a very good experience. And these are some of the projects. These look like professional projects. These are by students. Within the realm of this share of knowledge and sharing of experiences between profession, owners, and students. Some beautiful work. In many cases, we had architects out of Texas A&M, architect students out of Texas A&M, interior design students from Oklahoma actually working together. As we all know, no one practices architecture by themselves anymore. In particular, when these large projects, we all work on teams. It gives students a great opportunity to work on teams. But some beautiful, beautiful work. Ways to inspire young people. I do get a chance to visit a lot of different places across the world, to meet people, to see different hospital design aspects and techniques. Some of the things I think that span that have been touched on throughout the conference, I just want to touch on again, is evidence-based design, of course, is helping us to understand how do we make better decisions in design, whether that be for material selection, whether that be for the amount of daylight that we want to bring into the rooms, or whether that is a decision on how far a staff member needs to actually travel to do their job. Healing environments, healing gardens, natural light. It's a theme that spans across the globe. Community-based healthcare, ambulatory care, shared services, the movement to single bed in order for safety and infection control. I recently had an opportunity to be interviewed and for a magazine article, and she asked me at the very end of the interview, what do you see as the differences in the design experience that you have across the globe? And it was a very difficult question to answer, and the way that I tried to answer it was, we have more in common across the globe in aspect to healthcare and the things that we can do in design than we have as differences. And I really believe that. I do really believe that. And I hope that there are individuals in this room that are inspired to continue to break ground in healthcare design, continue to do new things and new experience and new research, because it's the one building type that really impacts us the most, maybe besides our homes. But it's the one building type that can also enhance our experience and enhance our healing more than any other. And I think the UIA also, in their public health, serves or shares the spirit of that, of sharing knowledge and getting together in meetings like this and sharing experiences and sharing research and projects. It only makes us all better that we can be together and share this knowledge together. I would encourage architects and engineers in the audience to get involved. Other resources to consider, Architecture Academy for Health. It's a division of the AIA, and it has been around for many decades. It has resources. Come to the States. Come join us in many of the similar conferences like this. We have a lot of things to share. Architects for Health in the UK, International Academy for Design and Health. Canada has a group as well. GUPA and other resources, WHO, IHF, Health Environments Research and Design. I saw in an earlier presentation research that was cited out of the HERD Journal. It's a great resource that you can get to online that has a lot of evidence-based design that you can find on it. These are the programs that I could kind of identify and remember. Many of them are U.S.-based. But these are university programs that have architecture programs that have emphasis on healthcare design. I've had the opportunity to not only have a degree from Texas A&M where I was exposed to healthcare design and as an actual choice for profession, but went on to Clemson University to get a specialized degree in healthcare design. Much like Jim Atkinson from HDR, we both had the blessing and the opportunity to participate in that program and have masters from that program. But we are believers in the fact that we can make difference in design, in particular to healthcare. And what a better way to inspire people to do that at a young age and have an opportunity to formally study those ideas in education at the university. I believe this was the last UIA in Oslo. Was that Buenos Aires? Okay, I missed it. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for participating in the conference. I think this is a seed, hopefully, that can grow. We look forward to the opportunity to participate in further get-togethers here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesse. Now we open the discussion for 10 minutes before we go for praying. Do you have any question? Yes. Yes, please. هناك.
السلام عليكم. مهندس هشام، مكتب المجاز في الشؤون الهندسية. I want to ask Engineer Mark Wilson about the proper time for make a tender for procurement for a new hospital, because we are suffering from separating procurement tender from the main contracting for the hospital building. After make procurement, we are suffering from pre-installation work. I ask for the proper time to do tender for procurement for a new hospital.
Thank you.
I understand the question was, what is the proper timing for tender of equipment to support project? A lot of that is based on volume. A lot of it is based on when the expectation for installation for specific pieces of equipment occur. A general rule of thumb would be to start approximately 2 years prior to the occupancy date. That will allow you to make reasonable decisions and allow enough time to negotiate packages for better financial conditions, as well as allowing enough time to accumulate the product so that it can be installed into the project. General rule of thumb would be to start about 2 years prior.
Thank you. دكتور دوسري. ميكروفون يا شباب، ميكروفون.
Thank you. My question to Jason, I'm Abdulaziz Al-Dosari, board chairman for the Omran Society, and I am professor in College of Architecture. We like to open more collaboration with Texas A&M and your office to have a graduate studies program or anything you like to proceed, to have more collaboration in Saudi Arabia and King Saudi University. But did you think to start with, do you recommend to start with a diploma program or just master degree or PhD degree with the Texas A&M? Which one do you recommend?
That's a good question. There are different models there, and there are many programs that we can learn from. At Texas A&M, the undergraduate program for the bachelor's degree is a 4-year degree, and students have an opportunity to take 1 semester studio for healthcare as an undergraduate. Now, when they receive their bachelor's degree, then they have an opportunity to go beyond for 2 more years to get their master degree. Within the master degree program is where the true specialty occurs for the degree. And I believe I think it's total of 60 credit hours, the way the U.S. system works, 60 credit hours that you must achieve to receive your master's degree. Within those credit hours, I believe 30% have to be healthcare related in order to receive the healthcare certificate. I guess if you ask for a recommendation, I think collaboration between the universities here and the universities in the U.S., I think, would be a great start on sharing knowledge and programs and even maybe sharing students. If you find and see the students, I think HDR, RTKL, the U.S.-based firms could attest, those that graduate with a specialty in healthcare design tend to be recruited very heavily from the profession. Because as we all know, hospitals are a very complicated building type. And if we can recruit young, aspiring architects who are interested and have some knowledge already in that, then they will benefit the profession even more. So I would just encourage any exposure that you can provide students in the university level to healthcare design is a good start. Beyond that, a formal program, I think, would be a phenomenal start because it will emphasize to the community, to students, that the university, the kingdom believe that a specialty in healthcare design is very important due to its high specialization. And it would give students an opportunity to actually choose a specialty. And we find that once students know that it's an opportunity, they're more curious about it and they may pursue it. I think it would be a great idea to consider a joint program, for sure. We could certainly look at ways to do that and to share that together. We may want to talk afterwards to understand how we can do that some more.
Thank you. Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you for all the speakers. My name is Dr. Nami. I'm the CEO of King Faisal Medical City in the South region. Jason, you had run the marathon. You had showed us beautiful things, and this is really a learning process for all the new generation and the new architect on the healing environment. Having said that, we know that sometimes the environment itself in the country that you are developing a hospital can help you in what you want to do on the way it looks. For example, in Saudi Arabia, we know that we have dry seasons and things like this, but we love to see lakes and stuff around the hospitals. How do we go about if we are going to establish something like this? Is there anything in the architect that can develop more of the healing environment, for example, the lakes and stuff like that, that can, because we know that, you know, the rainy season is less, the waters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think absolutely, as architects and designers and engineers, we can bring those things and those ideas. For us in the States, sometimes it's difficult because of cost to create those environments. We try to then, if we can't, we try to utilize the environment in which we are given and provide opportunities for views and things to those. But when you do have an opportunity to create a garden or a view to a beautiful area or a lake, I think research would say that that enhances that human experience that you have. It also enhances the patient experience. And research has even shown that for staff, when they have an opportunity during their work shift to stand up next to a window and look outside for 5 minutes maybe, that it actually increases their alertness, which some may argue could then also reduce medical errors in staff. And so there's a lot of research that says we should be doing that in all of our designs, absolutely. And I think that you should challenge your architects to work with you in order to create those opportunities, because it does impact the patients, visitors, and staff on how you design the site and those opportunities of how we look at inside versus outside.
Thank you.
I have a comment and a question to Mr. Irpin from Malaysia. First, I would like to thank Jason for putting my picture unknowingly here. I was on that Argentina conference for the UAA. Thank you for that. But comment to the Malaysian cases. First, excellent study. I'd like to thank you for that. Second, I would like to inform you that there is research ongoing we are doing in regards to the size of location and orientation of windows in healthcare facilities, especially intensive care units. And the results of our research, which is numerical simulation, parallel to the case studies that you have done, is almost similar to that. Yes, patient experience will differ in regards to orientation and size and or proportion of the windows. So you have support to your cases.
Thank you, Professor.
Question, size of the population size of your survey. Because to make good judgment, you have to have a large number of people, because you're talking about mean and percentages and the like.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the questions. I appreciate the similar findings arrived by your good self. And in my studies, there are 3 stages of methodology. Number 1 is the literature review of the body of knowledge. The second is the opinion surveys. And the third one is simulations. What I've showed the audience today is the second part, which is the opinion surveys. And for populations, number of population of my surveys, as mentioned earlier in my presentation, there are 4 target groups divided into patients, hospital staff, healthcare designers, and healthcare providers. So these are separate questions addressed. For patients, because my study is very limited funding, so we only focus on the 4-bed ward environments. So 4-bed ward environments, in establishing the respondents, we have to find the patients who experience in that particular ward more than 2 days. So the number of respondents for patient is 128. 100 is more than 30%. So, and for, but the method of conducting the survey with the patients, you have to no choice that you have to engage face to face. That then only you get 100% response. For doctors is the one that I'm worried, because we need to get feedback from them. We need to get, and architects is the worst scenario because they think they are smart, you know, they are clever. But when I pose a question of daylighting, the first reaction I receive is, this is an examination question, you know, because daylighting is not intuition. It has some calculation of protruding sun shading angles and so on. There is a need of body of knowledge for that. I hope I answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Hashim ibn Auf Suleiman, from King Faisal Specialty Hospital, senior architect. I have 2 questions to Mr. Aripin and 1 question to Mr. Jason. My question to Mr. Aripin is when you mentioned the glare in windows, you mentioned that the color of the walls should be dark or light to reduce that glare effect. And my second question, I just want to clarify, because I couldn't distinguish what should we use to decrease the glare. And also in the end of the slides, I have seen like a simulation image of a program that will simulate daylight. I would like you, if you can just mention if it is something specific, Ecotech or something else that we can use in our modeling as well. Just a question to Mr. Jason regarding the invitation to the US for workshops and this. Isn't it easier to have something in Qatar Foundation, which is closer to us, and you already have a college there? Is that something possible to make it easier for us to go there and attend some workshops? Thank you.
I may answer the, can I answer the easiest question first, which is question number 2 of yours. The software that I used for the simulation study was Integrated Environmental Solution, which is not Ecotech. Integrated Environmental Solutions, you can actually have data on heat as well, thermal comfort. And, but in my studies, the model of 4-bit watts is developed, and then before those data being developed, you have to do the measurement on site. You have to take the samples of the reflectance, the existing reflectance, and the existing colors and window positions. And then you have a parametric study or in order to arrive to simulations. So in short, I use integrated environmental solution. That's number 1. And you asked me about the factors contributing to visual comfort. There are multiple factors. And in hospitals, in order to arrive at a good visual comfort, first I mentioned in my presentation is building orientation. You have no reasons to excuse this. From my country, where East and West is very strong, so try to avoid that. That's number 1. Number 2, then you look at the window placement, window size and window placement. There is a need of simulation program in order to arrive at that. And then the color of the wart, it is safely to have a pastel color. Of course, there is a need for certain reflectance, and also the floor and ceiling. Those are the area. So there is no, the rule of thumb for you to achieve a very good daylight factor based on the guidelines is 1 daylight factor at the innermost bed head. Once you achieve that, that can be considered the color, window placement, and also the ceiling materials are okay. So in order, there is no a kind of right solutions, all integrated. Yeah, thank you.
The second question, real quick, if I understand you correctly, is how can we make some of the workshops in the U.S. more accessible to others, or is that correct? Yeah, there's been some discussion actually within the Academy of Architecture for Health as how we can begin to regionalize kind of the knowledge and the opportunity for workshops. We haven't figured that out yet because there's money that it costs to do that, and the funding sometimes is very difficult. But I will say if you follow on the websites both Academy of Architecture for Health and Healthcare Design and some of the U.S.-based workshop folks, you'll see also some webinars and seminars that you can do online, and I think right now that's our best solution, and there is some good workshops and presentations available online for webinars.
Yeah, one question there.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My question is to Mr. Shazali, and this is about daylighting. Well, we all know that occupants in the hospitals, like patients, staff, should have a maximum view to the outside world. Like we can do that by provision of the courtyards, central courtyards, and lots of glazing areas, the healing gardens. Well, on the one hand, we are contributing to the healing environment, but at the same time, how do we justify the glazing sizes and courtyards in terms of energy consumption? And eventually to greenhouse gases emissions, carbon dioxide emissions. How do we balance the both? Also, we need to see the cost factor also. And plus, while designing, do we have to keep in mind the heating environment or the carbon dioxide emissions? Thank you.
It is a very difficult question to answer short, but I can say that it requires a simulation. It requires a thorough study of, you cannot achieve a lot of things, I must say that. but you can achieve a balance. Like a study that I do between near window and outside window, for example, there are certain patients in a group prefer to be away from the window. We always perceive that patient would like to have immediate access to the window, but not actually. Some of them really give a strong reason why they need to be located away from window. One example is near to the toilet. There you are. You never realize that they want that reason in order to be located away from the window. So there is no perfect solution in any hospitals, but we have to achieve a balance. That's all I can say. And to answer your question about carbon dioxide and so on, I think we have to do a thorough study of simulation study before being constructed and being built. And in Malaysia, there is a movement by the private sector to push the government to implement what we call as building GBI, Green Building Index. And for hospital design, hospital healthcare facility, there is no index yet to be developed. So this is new to us. And for other countries as well, they have developed LEEDs and BREEAM and other tools for index for hospital design. But not for us, we are developing, okay? So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Last question. Yes.
Engineer Faisal, my question to Mr. Mark. In which stage of the new infrastructure project can the medical planner or consultant be involved?
Yeah.
So your question, I didn't quite understand it all. It was what percentage?
Yeah, no, what's the phase? Which phase? In the beginning of the project, in the second phase, in the third phase, which stage you can call the medical planner or consultant to start in the project?
Okay, so when should the medical equipment planner come on board? What phase?
Yeah, what phase? What stage? Yeah.
It's a cost function on the part of the owner. We recommend that during the schematic design phase to begin to size the spaces with the major equipment systems. We feel that that gives us the best opportunity to support the design phase. So schematic design, early concept even, would be a good time to hire the medical equipment planner.
Thank you. Is there any question? Last after, is there any question? Oh, okay. Here.
My name is Engineer Mohammed bin Jubair. My question is for Mr. Mark Milson. It's regarding the big medical equipments. How do we deal with the installation of big medical equipments during the construction phase? Is it during or after the finish of the construction phase for the facility?
When you say big medical equipment, I think a good example would be imaging equipment.
Yes, for example, yes.
Very good. Imaging equipment represents the biggest impact on installation. It's also one of the most expensive systems that we buy to support hospital projects. And most imaging manufacturers, in fact all imaging manufacturers I'm aware of, insist on installing their own systems. It is not a third-party scenario. They also have strict criteria for the completion of the building prior to even delivering those systems into the building. So as an example, in the U.S., imaging manufacturers will insist on final floor finishes, final painting. There must be an active IT system to allow them to do their calibration. Generally, this will happen during the end of the process. The builder must accomplish certain criteria before those major imaging systems occur. For other systems, so much of it has to do with coordination to the builder's acceptance element and what the builder has been contracted to install. Oftentimes, an owner will provide a piece of equipment, but the contractor, the builder, will install it. And those elements will be individually scheduled. As an example, operating room or operating theater lights will go in according to a builder's time frame. And that will typically occur much toward the end of the process. well within a 6-month period prior to the occupancy.
Thank you. Thank you. He went to make a statement.
I quite privileged to be with you in this Kingdom Saudi Arabia country, and I would like to say this because we are all here acknowledge the fact that healthcare building is very complex, and as a Muslim and also as an architect, we have the opportunity to prepare the patients to another dimension, which is more nearing towards God. So when they are sick, whatever perceptions the architects trying to portray in their buildings, the fundamental is how do we prepare them culturally to relate to God. That is another dimension that we should discover.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. That's why we are going to pray now. Yes. Thank you.
ختام هذه الجلسة نشكر المحاضرين ونشكر الحقيقة الحضور. Now we will give thanks for all. The first one is Mark Wilson, for lecture, the first lecture. The second, الثاني سازاري أو سرزاري، هو الحقيقة اسمه إيه؟ المحاضر الثالث جاسون. وختاما نشكر المهندس خالد الناصر على إدارة هذه الجلسة. الجلسة الأخيرة تبدأ الساعة 1، هي جلسة التوصيات. The recommendation session, it will be. شكرا مهندس خالد. الجلسة الأخيرة هي الجلسة الساعة 1 بعد الصلاة وبعد زيارة المعرض. بعدها سيكون هناك صورة تذكارية للمحاضرين، ستكون إن شاء الله بعد جلسة التوصيات. بعد ذلك سيكون هناك الغداء، والغداء في القاعة الجانبية لهذه القاعة، وكما أن هناك قاعة للسيدات مخصصة للغداء. Recommendation session, it will be after 1 o'clock. Then after that we will take a photo with all speakers. Then after that it will be the end of this ceremony. Before of that there is lunch in the hall 2. Okay, thank you for all.